What's up, y'all? You are listening to For the Artist Say podcast brought to you by Creative M Projects. I'm your host, Melissa Sharee, and we have a feature today that I am very excited to talk to. We haven't spoken in a long time, okay? Years, decades. Can we say decades? Look, we're
You
not
could
going to
say
tell on ourselves.
decades. I don't
But let me,
mind.
you don't mind?
Mm,
Okay, me either.
mm.
All right, y'all, let me tell you who it is. It's Joseph Makkar, and
What?
he is a talented actor. Yes, he is, and successful entrepreneur with a diverse range of experience and expertise. We can hear about that. He began his career in the entertainment industry at a young age, performing on the stage in theater productions and appearing in Walt Disney's first R-rated film. Ooh, Down and Out in Beverly Hills at the age of 12. He continued to hone his craft through training and education, attending the Los Angeles County High School for the Arts. So you can connect the dots right there in terms of how we met. Whoop, whoop. And he later earned both his undergraduate and MBA degrees from Pepperdine University's Graziadio. I jacked
Hmm.
that up. How do you say
Yeah.
that?
Graziadio, same
There
thing.
we go.
The,
School of Business.
both just as expensive.
And in addition to his acting career, Joseph has also developed a successful niche, okay, business in the veterinary industry. Despite his busy schedule, he remains committed to his craft and continues to work on a variety of projects each year with aspirations of acting in film and television on a more regular basis. He's appeared on popular shows such as NCIS LA, SEAL Team, Hulu's Onyx, Collective Reasonable Doubt, ooh, juicy, and the Los Angeles Medical Examiner. He has also been currently doing some voiceover work, having lent his voice to over 20 episodes of various current shows on Netflix. He can talk about what he's currently doing when we, chip chop it up. But
Mhm.
Joe, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Melissa.
This
Thanks
is
for
my
having me. This is
this is my
exciting.
yeah, it is exciting, right? Well, I think
Yeah,
it's exciting. So I'm glad you're excited too.
I am excited. Yeah. I have to tell my face that I've just been working so hard that I've got to cheer myself. I got some coffee on the side, so I'll be sipping here and again. But
You're ready. You're ready. So
mhm.
wait, you've been working so hard that you have to remind yourself to smile. Do tell. What have you been working so hard
Well,
on?
okay, so as of late, I've been working on a live show called The Passion Play, and that is currently directed by Chip Fields Hurd. Her married name is Hurd, and Otis Salad or Salid, who's a pretty big Broadway choreographer and director himself. So I've been working on that for the last few weeks. I'm not a musical actor. When I was at Loxa, I was doing theater acting only, no dance, no music. But somehow Chip convinced me to do this show as the greatest betrayer of all time, who's Judas. So I'll be playing
Ooh.
Judas in the show, and
Mhm.
she specifically wanted me to get engaged with this because it's being uh, filmed for television. So it'll be available to a worldwide audience and not just live productions. But this whole purpose, I think, of doing it this early because they normally do it at this church called the Shepherd Church in Porter Ranch, pretty
Mhm.
big church there during April, so during Easter. So I agreed to it. The first few days I was dreading it because I had to, I'm probably the tallest, biggest guy on the stage, at least, for the most part, when the dancers are doing their thing. So I try to hide behind people and it's just impossible. So I had to learn the steps. I had to go back to, at least some of the dance and body movement classes that we had in acting class. So that's cool. And then sing. I at times I hope that the media team has got my mic off so I don't embarrass the team, you know. But as far as the acting is concerned, to be able to play such a pivotal person in the Bible,
Mhm.
to know that even though he's known as the great betrayer, but to play him with such authenticity has been really a tough thing for me, because I am Christian. I do believe that Christ died for my sins, and is the only way out of this joint with any sense of grace and glory.
Mm-hmm.
So to play that has been really, really challenging for me, and I'm really touched every time I go on stage. Number one, for being asked to do it, and honored to jump in and support Chip on this current production, and then also to the nature of this character is just really heavy. So that's what I've been working on. Last night got home a little after midnight. There's been some late rehearsals and stuff. So
Okay.
that's why. So I do have to remind myself to smile. Besides, I normally don't wear a beard this long. Like, I wear a beard, but this one I grew out once. I had an AFI film that I was working on as a father, and so I let it grow out about halfway. Then Chip told me, said, "No, you got to keep the beard for this role." So it's a lot longer than I'm used to or I'm comfortable with. So once this thing is done, it's coming off.
Well, it looks great, and
Thank
I
you.
can see you embodying the character.
Yeah, thanks.
Man, I love though that you were well, obviously you've been at this for a long time, but the fact that, you know, not that I'm calling you old or anything, I'm just saying
I'm
you've been
50.
doing this. You've been
Call what
doing
you
this.
want. I'm
You've been
50.
doing this since you were
Yeah,
12. So the fact that you were willing to, you know, open yourself up to do something that's completely not comfortable, that, like you
sure.
said, you weren't looking forward to in terms of the dancing and the singing.
Hmm.
Um, how do you think, besides just your years of experience, how do you think you got to that place? Because I'm thinking about people that are listening who kind of stay in their box of only doing what's comfortable, or maybe even having kind of the mindset of, I'm not good at that, so I'm not even going to try to go there.
Sure. It's really interesting is, as you know, everyone's been through some tough times during COVID and all that. And so a lot of us have been not only challenged in more ways than we're comfortable with during these times, but also too with maybe some hangups that we may have had, and limitations, self-limiting thoughts, and that sort of thing. And so last year, that all came to the surface for me, because I was also looking at how much I contributed to the lack of achievement in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not a big, New Year's resolution kind of person. I really revamp what I'm up to on a regular basis throughout the year. But this time I said, I'm going to just let go and let God, unlike any prior year.
Mm-hmm.
So this fell right sort of into my lap right as I was making that choice. And then so many other things, just like accepting this, and then, going through the uncomfortable state of feeling like I'm less than on stage when you have, performers and then the director who's been on Broadway and that sort of thing. I thought about, this may be a longer response to the question, but I'll tell you something that really came up for me. When I was probably 19, I was working at the Broadway at Fox Hills Mall right after high school, and there was a woman who worked in the furniture department, and she was a really nice lady. She would, every time I would come early, she would tell me, "Good for you. Kids your age don't understand the value of being on time." And so she was just a real good sort of mentor in the space in so many ways, just by being interested in what I was up to. And so when she found out I wanted to be an actor, she gave me this book, and the book was an unauthorized biography of James Dean.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started reading it, number one, I thought, okay, this is the time and the training of an actor that received just about, I mean, that was like the archetype of performers that received the level of training that they got. It's Eartha Kitt, Marlon Brando, Marilyn Monroe, Al Pacino, all those guys that were part of the Actors Studios neighborhood playhouse or whatever it was back then.
Mhm.
But they also had dance training. Like there was a picture in there with James Dean dancing right next to Eartha Kitt. And I
Mhm.
thought, there's just something really special about being 6'3", 255 pounds, and what people would consider a man's man, out there really just being vulnerable and open. And I thought, this is the time for that to happen. I've got to be open to a different part of my brain being affected by areas that I've just not been either exposed to or unwilling to go to, because it's still safe. It's not like I'm exposed and vulnerable to something that I'm not in agreement with. So that then had a really different effect on me. It's almost like writing with your, I don't know, are you right or left-handed?
Right-handed.
Right. So writing with your left hand, it's been like writing with my left hand for the last few weeks.
Mm.
Yeah. Messy,
Yeah.
uncomfortable, so, but I'm willing to go through that process and see the messiness now. Whereas before I would judge myself probably more than others would. And I've definitely been that person to judge myself out of opportunities most of my life, so that's what's up.
Okay.
That's how it all kind of came together.
It's a great analogy, though. It's like when you're right-handed writing with your left hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is messy, but it's like, but you can still do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you can still write with your left hand. It doesn't look like what you want it to look like necessarily, or what you think it would, but you can still do it.
Right. Or what other people would like it to look like.
Or what other people would. Yeah, but it's legible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, how old were you when the person saw you at the mall and gave you the book?
I think I was 19.
19.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because sometimes, I'll have conversations with people, and there are people that fall in the camp of the idea that divine things happen because they're supposed to happen. Almost like, how they think of like, now some things are destined to happen. It's destiny, right? And then there are those in another camp where they think of, well, they're from the line of, no, there's no real like destined to happen. It's like you are the determining person to make things happen. And so I'm always struck, I guess, by that concept, because I tend to believe that there is a divineness to certain things happening, in terms of things that happen in our life that it's like, yeah, we're a part of, but it's almost like there's definitely God or bigger, higher power entity that is like kind of orchestrating things.
Right. Well, I have to say, I watched a couple of your podcasts, and you tend to gravitate more towards God conversations here. So and that's what made it, it made it a little more. It was more of a draw for me to join in on the podcast too, because I have to say there aren't two camps for me. I don't plan on sharing everything on the podcast, but I grew up in a rough neighborhood, and
Yeah.
experienced some really tough things growing up. And had it not been for God in my life, I wouldn't be where I am today. So that's the only camp. And everything that has happened, both good and bad, I've learned from, and it's all been Him in my book. There is no other. Just I don't even entertain it, because I wouldn't risk having the protection that I have in comparison to those that I've grew up around and seen go in the direction they've gone in. So yeah, it's all been Him. He's carried me the whole way. It's the sand, the sand in the footsteps. Plenty of times, I was wondering who was doing what, and every time it's always been Him carrying me. And it's just been, it was a rough road growing up. I mean, I think you traveled from Torrance, Carson, somewhere South Bay,
To
right?
get to school, high school?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Torrance
yeah.
and
So
Carson, both. We kind of moved a lot.
okay. I was coming from Inglewood, but even yet before the High School of the Arts, back in those days, I was actually 10 when I started catching the bus to acting school, because Chip Fields, who I'm working with now, gave me a scholarship to acting school when I was 10.
Mm-hmm.
And she just told me, she just have to get to class. I mean, it's that to catch buses and all that stuff. And my folks were cool. My dad was a very, very faithful man and strong believer. I really never had issues with me, getting up and going. So he kind of
Mm-hmm.
came from a tough part of Egypt where this is diluted, this is watered down in comparison to what they went through in terms of opportunities and stuff. So, yeah. So growing up, during the toughest times in Inglewood with the crack epidemic and shootings and the unfortunate loss of my sister. My sister was killed in a drive-by shooting, and all that stuff happening, and at the same time, being just really held in the palm of his hand all the way through. And do you have to participate and use your free will to advance to him for that to happen? I had no choice. I really had no choice. And I know people tend to pitch tents and camps to to kind of unravel that whole thing, but but for the grace of God, I always keep that very, very clear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how you knew you wanted to act at 10. I mean, what?
I didn't. So I was I was in elementary school, and they had a career day. On that career day, prior years, I wanted to be a firefighter, and if you answered the question right in the firefighters class, then they let you put on the big suit. And so I was in the class, raised my hand. The second I raised my hand, the fire department got an emergency call, so they had to leave. I was so angry. So all the kids who wanted to be firefighters were then told to go find another career class because it was career day. And I was walking down the hall next to where my home room or whatever the class was, second period or no, wherever in the building, same building as my class. Next door to that was this woman standing outside with a big line, and it just so happened to be Chip Fields. So I went into the class. There was something they were doing. I yawned really loud. She turned around and asked, "Do you think you can do better?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Okay, great. So you're up next, and this is called an improvisation. It's where you come up and make up the story. I'll give you what the story's about, and you go from there." So then the story was that I was on a basketball court with a friend, and a girl walks up, and so I had everybody cracking up. She was laughing. The administrator who conducted the whole career day was giving me the evil eye. I mean, she was so mad at me. And so after class, as I'm walking out, or after the career day session, I'm walking out, she like tugs my shirt and says, "I'm watching you." So okay. So lunchtime comes around. We're back in class, our regular classes, and there's a knock at the door. And one of the toughest teachers I've had in probably my entire life goes to the door, says, "Mr. Makkar, the principal wants to see you." So I'm already, Miss Fellows, who is the administrator, already tugged me. So I figured, okay, back to the principal's office. So I go to the door. It's the principal, Mr. Butler, Miss Fellows, and Chip. And as soon as I got to the door, I knew that I was going to be hauled to the principal's office for acting out. And so she started talking. Chip did, and said, you're a talented young boy, and I'd like to offer you, if your parents are okay with it, I'd like to offer you a scholarship to my acting school." So that's how it started. Yeah.
Wow, that's a great story.
Yeah.
And it reinforces my belief that divine things happen to put us in the places that we need to be. Not that I'm trying to push that, but I'm just saying, like, What are the odds?
That's the
You
name
wanted
of
to go
my
to the,
that's the name of my one-man show, by the way.
really?
What are the odds?
Okay, wait. Is
You
your
have to
one
pull it
man?
up. It's on YouTube. Yeah.
Oh, I definitely am gonna pull it up. Okay, so is that gonna be? Is that running now anywhere? Like, are you gonna do that
No,
after the
I did
fashion
that.
show?
Deborah DeLiso. Do you remember Deborah DeLiso? One of
Yeah.
our PE teacher.
Uh-huh.
She directed me about 8 or 9 years ago in this
Wow.
solo performance, and that was going to be sort of the start of excuse me, the screenplay that I'm writing called Victims of Freedom, which has to do with this Egyptian family leaving Egypt to come to America and not real and thinking that it's going to be this great land of opportunity, and then obviously experiencing some of the stuff that we experienced.
Mm-hmm.
So that was supposed to be sort of the act one of that film, and it just sort of fell through the cracks because I started getting busy again, having to cover the cost of tuition
Mm-hmm.
for two girls who are 22 and 20,
Wow.
who are one's at SC doing her MFT now, and the other one's at Fullerton doing her pre-med stuff. So all that stuff was kicking in, having to pay for tuition and all that stuff. And I've always promised them I would cover the cost of college and so on. So I had to commit to my promise, and so I'm coming back around to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We always come back around. We always come back around.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on how necessary it is to study in your craft? I mean, you went to acting school, you got a scholarship, and you went to LAXA,
Mhm.
and then you continued on. I mean, do you feel like it's vital in terms of actually being successful or not?
So, training, as you know, as a singer, musician, is key to improvement. And there are some people who are really talented. I have to admit that probably need less training than others. Might have a real strong gift that needs very little, you know, sharpening or polishing. But unfortunately, I'm not of that caliber and of that group. So for me, I've been, heavily involved in cold reading classes on Tuesday nights, and then scene study classes on Thursday when I was doing that for a little while. And then I started getting involved in the shooting part of it. So I bought a whole bunch of equipment, cinema package, and that sort of thing, so that I could see what these people on this side of the camera are looking at. So the answer to your question is, it doesn't hurt to get more training. And in fact, for people like me who aren't as naturally talented as others, it's a requirement if you really want to move ahead. And and especially if your dad isn't Steven Spielberg, or where you might have nepotism kick in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wasn't ever so lucky to have anybody in that world. So I really always had to work extra hard,
Mm-hmm.
and so on. So yeah, so training is a must. Education is a must. I'm a big proponent for education on all levels. To be honest with you, if you can get the certifications and the degrees, and although they may be more than you need, there's nothing wrong with learning and constantly being a student of life.
Mm-hmm.
And academics, I love academics.
Yeah. So, Joe, you've never gotten tired of being in the industry and moving in your craft? I mean, because you have been at it for so long. I mean, you've never just been like, this is too much, too hard, too exhausting, too difficult. Have you ever gotten into that space?
Um, Not necessarily in that way, but I have been discouraged, because uh, 2023 is a new year.
Mm-hmm.
I will not drag on what some of my prior upsets and disappointments because have been because I think we drag them on. I think we bring them with us. And so yes, the answer to your question is I have been discouraged and I have been, but I also allowed myself to be. And I had to get back on track from the standpoint of remembering that this is a craft that I love, I enjoy, and any of the other stuff that gets in the way is not going to get my energy. So I'll just keep doing it until the right platform develops. If I have to develop my own, I invested quite a bit in equipment to be able to shoot shorts to start and then move on into my stuff that I'm writing. But yeah, it's a tough place to be. That question is a tough question because even if it's a thing of the past, you want to be careful not to project it, because there's somebody who is really excited about my work. Like, my goodness, you're so talented, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, you have a reel, do you have blah, blah, blah. And they've seen me in a different light. So if you watch Reasonable Doubt and the medical examiner, the coroner that I'm playing in that, he's got more of my personality. I chose to do him and perform that role closer to the kind of energy and personality that I hang out in. But if you watch some of my other stuff, I play a heavy, and I just don't want to bring that into people's view of what possibilities might exist. Meaning, they see me in this light, let me let them see me in this light from now on. Because that's a young professional, that's represents a good percentage of Middle Eastern, North African actors who aren't just bad people.
They aren't just bad people. As you were talking about just now, how this is a new year, and it's like you don't want to keep carrying on with things from the past, or the idea that we do carry things, we just keep bringing them along. I was thinking about the book. Have you ever read The Power of Now?
I have, but I don't remember much of it.
Okay, well, you don't have to remember. Yeah. So this is the thing about it. It's like the big nugget for me. I read it years ago, and I was so struck by how easily we do live in the past and the future, and we don't live like in the present. Like we think we're living in the present, but really we're like hung up and stuck on things like literally like something that happened this morning. It's now what, I don't know, 4 o'clock in the afternoon or something. And it's like, if I'm still dwelling on something that happened at 9 in the morning, even though it's in today, technically it's in the past. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that book is so powerful, which I almost was going to read it again this year. And because it's coming up, I think I will. But like you really have to work to stay in a place of being like present in just right now. And I think even as creatives, I don't know if you've experienced this, you can talk to it in a second, but I spend a lot of time too in the future, in the what I want to do, what I'm going to do, what I'm working towards, because it's a process of always like getting there, you know what I mean? And because we're always in that creative, I'm getting there, I'm doing it space, it's almost like we forget to be right in the right now of it. Am I making sense?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So easy to do, because we constantly have to or get to create or co-create our reality. So if you choose to bring in something that really didn't work this morning, you can paint, you can put whatever you want on that canvas at any moment. That's the beauty of free will, or whatever that sounds like. You get to paint whatever you want, you get to make it whatever you want. And I believe if you're privileged enough to have that luxury to remove negative influences, meaning, if you're not stuck in, financial burdens and you can't go from place to place and need to do things. But if you're in a good place, and you've done your work in order to be in that good place, why give it away? Why give it away? You should be, I should be, you can hear all that, those changes, right? Not have to get to, you is me, all these things that really become a part of our growth that we continue to personalize. And so we can actually benefit from it in ways that we can then be of service to others, which I think is critical too.
Yeah. Joe, what is the most enjoyable thing for you when it comes to acting? Like, what is it about acting that just really moves you on the inside?
Mm. That's a really good question. Because what happens is, yeah, I'm gonna get a little emotional, so just give me a moment here. It's funny you asked that question in a way that really brings up the real reason why I do what I do, and at times it catches me by surprise because sometimes I feel like I'm over it, but
Mhm.
it's a place that I can still get healing, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, the loss of my sister, that happened in '96.
Mhm.
I've worked through it, I had to become a father early to her daughter. And so at times when I get a chance to like go through those emotions, because she's still here, she's still with me. But I get a chance to really, you know, experience her again, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a personal thing for me to continue it. It's not even an option. It's not an option, you know.
Mhm.
Um, so even doing this Judas thing, like, my God, there is one scene where one of the actors is singing this song, this gospels. Actually, he wrote the song, and it's called "Come to Me." And the disciples all get a chance to, you know, participate in the song and sort of, do this sort of altar call to,
Mhm.
the congregation. And it just hits me so hard because there's just so much um, healing in knowing that this whole thing is in his hands. But in him we get to experience all these emotions, and so I do in these roles. I play them authentically. So I wouldn't play a Judas, like a guy who people would see him as a betrayer. I see him as somebody who's doing God's purpose and carrying out God's will. And so that's a little more challenging than to play the idea. And so that's the same thing I do. Every role I've done, you know, is the same. I get a chance to go through those experiences. And although that would seem like method acting, because most of whole method acting is sense memory and going back to moments in your life that you remember stuff. It's even more, it's beyond that, because when you have these, when you love so hard and so deeply, when you
Mhm.
care so much, it's just really hard to remove those feelings and thoughts and emotions out of your work. And acting just so happens to be one of those um opportunities to combine those feelings.
Wow.
Uh,
So
you
when
saw a
is
grown man cry. Look at you.
look I appreciate you though. I
Yeah,
appreciate you being vulnerable and answering my unscripted, you didn't know
yeah.
it was coming question.
No, I didn't. No.
um yeah, I mean that that's gonna resonate. I mean, resonated with me, and I know it's gonna resonate with many others that heard it. So I appreciate it.
No.
When is the passion play? You said it's gonna be on screen,
Yeah,
so
so
people
next
can't
week,
see it
yeah, you actually
live.
can come see it live at Shepherd Church in Porter Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Rinaldi, I think 19700 Rinaldi, but it's no tickets, meaning it's free. And I believe, I don't know, I think the sanctuary has over 4,500 seats. It's a big church.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll be from, I think they're going to be shooting it 3 days, the 25th, 24th, 23rd. And I think on the 25th is the day that they're allowing the public in, because I think they need audience participation and reaction to what they're shooting. So
Not of this month though.
yeah, next
Next.
week. Mhm.
What?
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, y'all heard that? Okay, we need to go next
Mhm.
week, the 25th of January.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm sure they can go to the Shepherd of the Hills
Yeah, they're
website.
yeah, you can go to their website. It's Shepherd Church, or I'll have to, I'm
You
botching
know
it
what?
up,
I'll
but
I'll
Shepherd.
also, I'll type it in
Okay.
to like the stuff that we put up for this.
All right. Yeah.
So they'll be able to find it.
Yeah.
And then what's next for you in terms of projects after that?
I
Do you
don't
already
know.
have
I'm
something?
open. No, nothing lined up. I'm open to what's next. Uh, yeah, nothing in the works in terms of the acting stuff, but in the veterinary component of my life, I've been doing that for 31 years, consulting, staffing, and opening clinics. I do have some really big software rollout that's happening in the next few weeks, probably next month, of a
Mm-hmm.
practice that's got over 100 employees.
Wow.
Mhm. And then one other one where we're reopening post-COVID, sort of a post-COVID reopening weekend. So I've got to manage all that stuff. Which,
So, Joe, are you left-handed or right-handed, or you strike me as one that might write with both?
I don't write with both. I'm right-handed. Yeah. And
You're right-handed.
my right-handed writing looks like my left-handed writing. So that's what you're picking up on. I definitely have doctor's chicken scratch because I've been around doctors since I was 19.
Well, listen, the fact that you have the veterinary business and that you also are creative, I'm like, you're using both the left and the right side of your brain. So I'm like, you
Yeah.
must be writing with the left and right hand.
Well, I figured out a way to include both because, when it comes to animals and people's love for their pets, you get a different dynamic, and a different part of a human being, than if they don't or aren't engaged with pets. It's a whole different human being who has pets and cares for pets, and people are in the industry that work for them as well. Just different people altogether. So it kind of goes hand in hand. It really does. There's a creative component. It's interesting too that a lot of veterinarians that I work with do have a creative side.
Mm-hmm.
To one vet who I started out with in 1993, who I still work with, um, he's a poet. So he writes. He was a guitarist, I think, in college, but he writes poetry. And he's
Mm-hmm.
in Inglewood. He's got a very thriving practice, integrated holistic practice in Inglewood. And there's another veterinarian who played the harp, and she's almost close to retirement and spends a lot of time playing her harp. And then a friend of mine who just passed last year, who was in television and film. He was writing his own films and doing his thing. So, but there is a, you might know, cat people are different than dog people, but dog people are, you know, uh, there's just something a little bit different about folks who are in that space, and they tend to be very similar, at least from my perspective, to the creative folks.
What's interesting is I tend to feel like everyone is creative in some way,
Yeah.
or has some sort of expressive quality about them. I mean, I've
Mhm.
been in like office workspaces where like everyone in there, they're doing their 9 to 5 thing,
Mhm.
and not that they're like doing creative things. How do I say it? They're not trying to do anything like in a creative lane, but they're all
Yeah.
creative. Like they play saxophone or piano, or there's some way that they express themselves creatively outside of the primary work that they're doing, even if it's not an aspiration. And I think
Yeah,
that's cool.
when you brought that up, I started reflecting, and you're right, actually right. A lot of people are creative. Um, so what is it about the vet world that drew me? Actually, it wasn't even purposeful. My girlfriend, who's now my wife at the
Hmm.
time, so she was my girlfriend. Her sister worked at a clinic. She was a receptionist, and she was leaving for maternity leave. And she I had just gotten laid off from the Broadway, and
Hmm.
she asked my wife, "Does Joe want to work at the clinic? Because if he does, then when I get back, I can fire him, and then I can get my job back." I was like, "All right, cool." But I also had a strong IT background, and so in that short period of time, I learned how to network. You remember Mr. Blackford?
The name rings a bell, but I
He
can't see
was a
a picture in my head.
computer teacher and history teacher at Loxa.
Okay.
He was legally blind. He had white hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, when you look up his picture, you'll remember him. But anyway, he was a big proponent of Apple computers at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned how to network them, and when they were not networkable, you had to figured out a way to use telephone cables to get two computers to talk to each other. So what I did was, when Jackie, my sister-in-law, left, I was able to install like 9 computers where they only had one, and
Wow.
increased their capacity to see 4 times as many pets. And so when that happened, she came back. The doctor, the practice owner said, "Okay, well, she's back. Where are you going?" I said, "I want to get involved in business and finance." And he said, "Well, how much are they? Where are you going?" I said, "Bank of America as a teller. It's an entry level." And he said,
Mm-hmm.
"Well, what are they going to pay you?" And I said, $9.50. I thought I was really like about to make some money. And at the time, I think I was making 8.75 or something. And he said, "I'll match him." I said, "You got me then. So I'm
Hey
staying."
now.
So once that happened, then word got around what I did for him. And then once I realized the demand that was not being fulfilled in that space, I started a staffing agency with we have over 15,000 candidates that operate through the service now. And I became the head consultant, which led to me becoming certified in the space. And so it's been a great career. It's been a great ride. We've helped so many people start their businesses, grow them. I help, create operations flows for clinics that
Mm-hmm.
may have been limited, and expand, and sometimes succession planning with vets that are retiring, that sort of thing. So it's been that kind of run. So it's been almost, was it 93? So it's been 30 years. Yeah.
Wow. It's so cool that you gave. I was going to ask you a question. You answered it before I
Oh,
even
sorry.
asked it. So I love it. Because I was going to be like, I was trying to connect how you even got into that field in terms of,
Mhm.
veterinary, but you answered it. So that's awesome.
You can ask it again. I'll be glad to.
No, you did perfectly.
I won't. I can't. Part of it might be a lie, so I'll change it up.
Okay, listen, I ain't going to have you on here forever, but I do have another question.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I'm much more relational now that I'm older, but I'm thinking about like a couple of the things that you said in terms of teachers that you've like stayed connected with, or there was some real value that you got from being in relationship with them outside of just the high school experience.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, how did that even happen for you, Joe?
So with who specifically?
So like you mentioned Blackford, you
Yeah.
mentioned Deliso,
Yeah.
and I'm sure, are there other teachers from high school that you still are connected to in some way, or that,
Not so much, other than who everybody else is connected with. Obviously, Jerry Friedman is the man, so everyone's connected to Mr. Friedman.
Yeah, but see,
Uh,
I wasn't connected to any of them really
oh,
outside of
really?
Miss Blodgett, maybe, but that was like not even really. I'm like, wow, what was I doing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they all showed a real strong interest in our success, and so Mr. Blackford, he was around for a couple of the alumni things. So I connected with him. I always got a kick out of him because, in the theater department, we had a way of getting to know even our academics teachers a little bit better than, maybe visual arts folks are, they're a little more quirky and probably not as, open to developing relationships. With theater folks are, we made relationships with everybody. So that
Mm.
probably was, a key aspect of creating and keeping those relationships. And Deborah DeLiso I ran into, I don't know, about 15 years ago at one of the alum events.
Hmm.
And she told me about this solo performance directing that she does, and this workshop that was going on in Pasadena. So I did that. It was probably a 6 to 8 week program with her. It was all from design from beginning to end in terms of her involvement with support and writing the content, putting it on its feet, and then finally a single performance. But having developed those relationships, um, people show, when you show interest in people, people show interest in you. When and then also too, there are times where I may have reached out more than the other person, but of because of what I got out of them, the nuggets and all that value, um, I felt it never would hurt to continue those relationships. So there was a time where even with Chip, I would somehow figure out how to get her number, and I got her number again. And I would text her, and it would be 6 months, I'd get no response. And then seventh month, hey, I love you. How you doing? How's the family doing? Blah, blah, blah. And then a year later, and then there maybe another number change, and somehow figure out a way. So I worked diligently to stay in contact with these people who really made a difference in my life. And I think that's just my nature, but and there was no motive behind it other than, every once in a while I'd contact Jerry and ask him, if he wanted to go grab some frozen yogurt. And he met my kid, so he lives less than 10 miles away. And
Hmm.
so take the kids and we go to frozen yogurt spot not too far from where he lives, sit around, hang out. And he tells me he forgot his wallet, and he probably did that twice. Like, dude, Gary, you can't be doing this all the time, man. You're supposed to cover the next one. He's like, I got it. I promise. So it's a running joke with him. But I haven't seen him in a while since his post. I think he had a post cancer recovery. That
Hmm.
his cancer recovery went really well, so I'm looking forward to connecting with him again. Um, I caught up to Chip. I'm seeing her every other day. It's
Hmm.
so, you have no idea how cool it is. I
Hmm.
can't, I really can't express how warm and fuzzy it feels to be around that woman doing the magic that she does with all these performers and working with another director. It's so amazing. And,
Yeah.
I feel so blessed to watch this thing come full circle. She still calls
Hmm.
me son. I look twice. I look like Adam compared to her, you know, or Moses or whoever's the oldest one. But I look as old as Adam. in comparison. She still looks great. And
You look great. You don't
thank you.
look as old as Adam
It's all
either.
these grays, man. I'm not gonna color them or nothing. But
Listen, gray
yeah,
is in. Okay, you got little 17-year-olds out here trying to get their hair dyed gray. It's
yeah.
trending. Okay, so
Okay.
gray is popping. It says nothing about your age now. I mean, you can do any color, including gray,
Yeah. All right.
and it looks good on your complexion.
Thank
I've
you.
thought about gray because it was trending, and you know what? Gray doesn't look good on me. Maybe
Really?
more like a silver or like a white.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know.
You
But
start
anyway.
getting into fashion, you lose me.
Well, are your daughters or your wife into fashion?
Yeah, they are. I mean, not my youngest is. My youngest daughter is totally with the eyelashes and the nails and the different
You know
hairstyles
about
and
that.
oh yeah.
Hey, well,
One
it's
minute.
probably good they're not into fashion because fashion is expensive.
No, the youngest
Unless
one
you're
figured out how to make that work out. Trust me. She's spending. Hmm We got
I mean,
issues with that. We're gonna solve that problem soon.
well, I'm a bargain shopper, so it doesn't faze me, but not everyone is. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man, Joe, we're gonna have to start wrapping up our time.
All right. Well, we'll do this again in the next let's see, you graduated in 91, right?
92.
Oh my God.
Hey, you were 91.
No, 90.
Oh, you were 90.
90. So that would be since
Yeah, because
1990.
yep, that's right. Because when I met you, you were a senior. I was a 10th grader. So that's about right.
Yeah.
And then all my friends left because somehow I ended up with all my friends being seniors. Then I had to start
Yeah.
over again as an 11th grader. And that wasn't fun.
You came in as a 10th grader though, right?
Yeah, because remember, Loxie, you can't come in as a 9th grader.
Yeah. Well, now
I
you
wonder if
can.
I don't,
Yeah.
now
Now
you
you
can. I was
can.
like, have they changed that?
Yeah, they
Okay.
changed it. I saw it on their website recently.
Yeah, I don't even know what the rationale was behind it. It might have been a California thing because in California, it was like junior high was 7th and 8th grade or something. No, 7, 8. I don't, you know what? Don't get me to lying.
No, it was. Well, I mean, Inglewood Unified School District was 7th, 8th at Crozier, and then 9th at Inglewood High. And then I transferred out to, I did a year playing football with Mac 10.
Really?
Playing football.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, that was 87. And then, yeah, it's great. Good years.
All
Good
right. Well,
years.
you know what? I'll definitely have to have you on again. You are officially part of the top 100. We're getting close to our 100th episode, and
Is that
you made
right?
it in. Yeah,
All
that's gonna
right.
be
That's
historic. Okay,
awesome.
just mark my words. They'll be like, "Oh, he was in the top
Oh,
100."
yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
Hmm
Sweet. All right. So besides the passion play
Yeah.
that's coming up, do you have anything else that you want to shout out or share or get people to know about that you're
Um,
doing? Any sort of website? I mean,
so
anything.
my YouTube channel is Joe Mack Films, and for a while I was taking some of the Thursday night scene study classes from my acting coach's uh, school and shooting them. So instead of us just doing regular scenes in the theater, we would put them on
Hmm.
their feet and find a location and use, just go all in. And so I plan on continuing to do that, but with shorts and original screenplays. We weren't doing originals, we were doing um, published projects just because they lended to a level of quality that we can at least use for the early work. And so now we're going to do original stuff. And so most of it will happen. Whatever's going on will be on that YouTube channel. And then anything else that comes up, just go to my IMDb and you'll see some of my stuff there. Yeah.
Okay, and just for anybody that's listening, okay, because they might be trying to spell it like Mac, like I'm the Mac, I'm Macking, but it's not that. It's Joemak.
Right.
Okay.
Which
So that's
is
where y'all need to
just
go.
as good, which is still the Mac. I mean, you can't take anything away from that.
No, it's still the Mac, but I'm just saying, I'm just saying if they spell it wrong, they're not going to find it.
That's true. So it
You
is,
know what
yes,
I
MAK.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So Joe Mac is the Mac. Okay. But just make sure you spell it MAK.
Yeah,
Because that's the better way to spell it.
yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we are going to wrap it up.
All
Joe,
right.
I want to thank you again
Thanks
for
for having
blessing
me
us
on.
with your time,
Likewise.
your
Likewise. Thanks for
story,
having me on. I appreciate it. Yeah.
your energy. I'm going to have you on again. And y'all, you have been listening again to For the Artists, which is a podcast brought to you by Creative M Projects. We've been talking to Joe Makkar, and you've got to check out his stuff. And if you are in the LA area, January 25th, got to go check out what he's doing right now because it sounds powerful. And I need to check my calendar because I definitely want to see what's up. But
Great.
again, until next week,
You're welcome.
yeah. What'd you say, Joe?
You're all welcome.
Yes, we're all welcome. So until next week, you already know what it is. I want you to keep creating from the inside out. Peace, love, and again, we're still saying Happy New Year 2023.
That's right. Happy New Year.
All right, bye.
All right. Bye-bye.